Okay, everybody, this is Brandon from Galaxy Stock Market. Welcome, community members. Today is February 21, 2026. It's Saturday at 7:25 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as I bring you this video entitled Silver Bear Trap Ahead. Danger, there's bear trap ahead. And we've been warning about this during the mega nuclear slam of the silver out of desperation from the banksters and COMEX. And now the chickens are coming home to roost and cats coming back to play and the mice are scurrying away. All right, so let's go ahead. We have a lot to cover today. And here's the disclaimer for those of you following on X and YouTube. Please pause and read it. If you agree, please move forward. And thank you so much for following me on x.com/galaxy.market. And also, there's some of you following on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, and comment and set your notification bells. Thank you so much for following my content. All right, so the biggest thing that we want to talk about is the Iranian threat of war, as we have pretty much half of our fleet out in to the Middle East right now, and that is not going so well for President Trump right now. So, but you have to understand that war posturing is a distraction to keep your attention away from the real thing that is happening right now, and that is the introduction of a new monetary system away from the fiat fractional reserve banking system, which has largely failed. The era of central banks being the stewards of monetary policy and printing money to oblivion is pretty much over. But they can't do that without some form of a distraction, false flag event, some form of a war. You know, we've had all kinds of other stuff in the past that starts with a C. I'm not going to get into that here. And they have largely failed. And so this threat of Iranian war is a distraction to keep your attention away from the fact that monetary reset is happening right before your eyes, but most people are still completely asleep and going about their way, watching the woke narrative from the Olympics and, watching something else, right? Collision course with China is now the narrative, as China has sent their Navy fleet and radar detection systems to assist in Iran, which is basically part of the BRICS coalition. And this is the new narrative that is happening, that not only is Iran getting involved in the United States on a war posture, so is China. But the real elephant in the room is the death of the fiat fractional reserve banking system, and this is what the powers that be for the masses to not focus on this, but be in fear of the impending potential conflict that is going to occur in Iran. Okay, as everybody is fixated into the Olympics, although I don't know how many people are actually watching the Winter Olympics. I, for one, everybody that I talk to, most of them didn't even know that a Winter Olympics was going on. Interesting, right? But here is the situation. Okay, this is the real elephant in the room, and that they want you to fixate on. Oh my God, China is getting involved and there's going to be a collision course, right? So China is providing Tehran live, right? They're providing them with live, okay? China is providing Tehran with live assistance. And then this, right? We have basically the Supreme Court striking down Trump's tariffs. And you do understand that if this goes through, how damaging and terrible this is going to be for United States. And because we are the biggest debtor nation in the world, having to now print money, and this narrative goes with why gold and silver started to spike, and there is no end from this situation. Okay, the globalist agenda is to weaken the United States and to redistribute wealth and open up borders into mass migration and change the cultures of every single Western civilization. And this is what's happening right now. So Supreme Court strikes down Trump's tariffs, and this is the next distraction for you to really worry about. They're really pushing this, right? It's all over the network news, and they're talking about, oh my gosh, well, we're going to owe billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in refunds, and this is going to destroy Trump's legacy. And that's the narrative, okay? Yes, people do not like Trump, but they want you to be distracted by the sideshow, okay? And the real show is the introduction of a new monetary system as they rob you again and try to transfer wealth from your retirement account, your purchasing power, into a new monetary system backed by stable coins and gold and silver, and introduction of central bank digital currencies or CBDCs. Okay, so here's the real problem, though, right? The real problem here is that Besant, I think they probably knew that Supreme Court was going to betray them. And so, he's saying that he and Trump has been making big plans and it's full steam ahead. They introduced another 10% new tariffs. Okay, so it seems to me that no matter what the deep state is doing, and I believe that Supreme Court really is tainted, okay, and this is the end of an empire that is happening right before your eyes, okay? So the other thing that people need to understand is that the Chinese Lunar New Year holiday market closure, coinciding with the President's Day, surprise, surprise, okay, Shanghai is returning for trading next week. Before they left, they put a floor of $85, okay, before the holiday break, okay? Okay, so $85 floor has been set, okay, before holiday break. And so what's peculiar is that if you notice, okay, and this is how things are so interesting. I'm going to bring this right down to here with you, and we might as well, I hate that stuff right there on the Windows 11. And we might as well talk about that right now. We closed on the futures 84.57 on the dot, right near that 85. I think we hit as far high as 85, but that is where we finished, okay? Gold is at 51.30. For those of you that were out there basically saying, oh my gosh, the generational bubble has popped and it's over, get your money into Bitcoin and cryptos or whatever the case is, or go into stock market, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This is an example of how when you have a 45-year-old, a cup and a handle base, and you start hitting this 121.785, okay, and you have this type of a pullback, right? We're going to have these sharp pullbacks as we explode higher. We're going to take out this 121.785 shortly, okay? And so, what we want to understand, what you need to understand, is that the backwardation here is imminent as China returns back to trading, okay? And as a result, now the COMEX has kind of backed itself into the corner because, their vaults are drained. At the last count, there's somewhere between 78 to 82 million ounces of silver left. What do you think that China is going to do? Chinese market continues to drain the COMEX depleted vaults because of this backwardation. Okay, when they come back for trading, it's going to set a significant upward price pressure for gold and silver, especially silver. The problem is that COMEX has shot itself in the foot. I mean, I think we printed probably over $1.2 trillion just to basically slam silver down from 121 down into, at one point it got below 69, hasn't it? And everybody got scared, but that was a generational buying opportunity. Yes, buying physical is smarter than anything else. As you can see in the derivatives market, they are basically manipulating the crap out of that. Right? But you cannot get shaken out. All right. So when you have basically the silver that is being manipulated, but the demand is not going away. Reports are that most of the industrials are going straight to the miners and mints and getting and paying upwards of 130 to 140 dollars per ounce to obtain that silver. So really the functionality and trust in the Western COMEX and LBMA system as the truthful setting of market price is gone. So as of February 20th, there is continued drainage at COMEX vaults. There is less than 82 million. Some are saying that there is about 78 million ounces left at the vault. February 27th delivery demand, there is about 15 million ounces open contracts against the 82 million or 78 million that is left. Here's the problem. The problem is that COMEX is, they're in a rock and a hard place. You can't print physical silver out of thin air. You can't mine on a whim silver out of thin air. You can't create a narrative somehow you're going to go to Mars and drill as much silver as possible from there and then make the prices come down because, or this impending, a lot of people are talking about these alien invasion hoaxes and things like that might be coming to scare people. But it's really not going to bring silver out of thin air. You can't manipulate silver because it's physical. It's rare. It's rare earth. They're precious metals. Okay, so you can't print that. So this February 27th delivery demand of 515 million ounces, there's about 82 million. So now it used to be 5-1. It's closer to 6-1 paper contracts waiting for delivery. The only way that COMEX has any shot at rectifying this situation and at least kick the can down the road until March is to basically set the price high enough where these physical demand delivery people might be tempted to take cash and then roll out into March. And I think that price is somewhere between 125 to 140, don't you think, before the options expiration on February 24th. I'm not saying that's actually going to happen. I'm just saying that that is probably one of the last viable options left for COMEX to save face. But the trust is gone. Everybody knows this game is rigged. Okay, even the biggest silver slam crew member of them all, JP Morgan Chase, is levered net long. Most of the banks are now holding long contracts. They just want you to not have the retail, not have silver or gold, or even for that matter, cryptocurrencies, as they drain it from you and hoard it by themselves. And when they have sufficient leverage and positioning, they're just going to flip the switch and let it just go parabolic. And then while you are left holding the bag in the stock markets, in your 401k, wondering what the hell happened, why you sold, for those of you even holding those physical gold and silver, and they want you to sell in panic. So we want to be watching the February 24th, which is Tuesday, silver and gold futures options expiration. Okay, right here. Okay, so that's the crux of the matter here. That is the 500-pound gorilla that you need to be watching on gold and silver. Next week is going to be explosive as hell, and I imagine very, very volatile. Okay. Here's the problem. Banksters have failed. Okay, COMEX's last slam, the nuclear slam of all slam, where they took us down from 121 all the way down below 69. Okay. There's more paper futures buying. You cannot push below 73.65. And in this matter, this is from a couple of weeks ago. I said you can't push below 73.65. And when I said that when China went into their self-imposed Chinese New Year, I told you, everybody, that there was a $85 price, that 8 doesn't look good, $85 price floor. And guess what? As I showed you on the chart just before, we finished at 84.57. I think we hit very close to 85. Good enough for government work, right? And then China is returning next week. China sets the price now. Banks also, believe it or not, net long on gold and silver. They just don't want you in it. They're trying to take your gold and silver, physicals especially, for cheap. And they're laughing all the way to the bank in the futures market, basically causing you to basically sell in panic. Okay. So let's review some charts before we go forward. We're going to be reviewing a bunch of stuff today. we're going to be talking about 10-year yield as measured by TNX. We need to look at the relationship of TNX to the US dollar. We're going to look at silver. We're going to look at gold. Okay, we'll look at XRP and Bitcoin. Very, very important. Okay, Bitcoin especially. Okay, by the way, XRP is Bitcoin with utility. You know that, right? XRP was forked off of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just store of value, folks. SPY, we're going to have to look at that, right? We're definitely looking at some Tesla action because Tesla is kind of a barometer for me for the overall market. And then we'll look at some on Apple and ULTA. I didn't put Apple there because we talked about Apple last week. However, Apple's still important. And we're going to look at VIX. Okay, so let's start there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to bring this down. I don't know if my computer's acting up today. So let's go into the McClellan Summation Index, and it looks as bullish as hell, right? We broke above this line in the sand. We blipped above. Here is the upward trend line. Okay. The question is, are we going to tag there and come back down? As this McClellan Summation Index is rising, the stock market is basically churning at the top, right? There's just a lot of issues going on. McClellan Summation Index is now diverging from what is actually happening in the stock market. And this happens very, very rarely, but we need to pay attention. So what's going on with SPY? SPY continues to show us a negative divergence on the RSI. We continue to churn at the top. Okay, here's that downtrend line. Yes, we regained the ADMA, but that's on a holiday shortened trading volume. And we have this upward sloping trend line. Once we break here and then start going towards this 50, here is basically the problem. We are locked in this channel until we break this 580 level. Really, the real sell-off is not happening. But once it does happen, it's going to be swift. We just need patience. We just got to understand that there is major divergences forming now. Okay, as we look at the MACD, histogram is coming down. We did this death cross. We're kind of rolling over. You can see the CCI having topped, and we're now coming down, and negative divergence. Stochastics has rolled over largely. Okay, let's look at our other indicators. My favorite indicator of all time and the crux of our trading realistically is our PPO ADX crush, and we're just continuing to do this. Okay, yet the price has not moved because of the trillions of dollars that are being printed right now to prop up the banks in this S&P 500. Banks are dead, folks. All right. The only thing that is basically hasn't confirmed yet is the accumulation and distribution. I thought maybe we would come back down, but let's see if there's any failure and start moving down. This is probably going to be the key. We have on the ATR basically just churning along. ATR can not only signal price expansion, but it can also, once it breaks this trend line, a trend reversal. Okay, that's what we're looking at. All right, so let's look at silver. Okay, and yes, this chart looks ugly for the most part because it is artificially slammed. But you know, we're beginning to form this positive divergences, are we not? We've got basically found support at the 20 SMA. And now we are above the ADMA, which is our signal. And we just got stopped. Not stopped. We just ran out of time before the 5 SMA. We're going to be regaining in the next week. I believe we're going to start pushing towards that 100 and towards the top, which was the 121 area. Okay, that's what we're looking at. Okay, silver. A lot of you guys are basically saying, oh, this looks like a bear flag and maybe it'll bounce and then come back down. However, we have a little doji or like a type of a formation, indecision, right? But there's a lot of support that was taking place. We just happened to break out above the ADMA. Okay, so when we look at the MACD, okay, so the MACD, yeah, I mean, we're continuing to come down, but really we have not done the death cross right into this area. Okay, we're now beginning to maybe start forming some stochastics bullish crossover. Okay, and then of course we have this situation forming. All right. And so PPOADX is flattening out. So we're probably beginning to form this formation. That's coming. Okay. This is the biggest bear trap that is forming. Let's look at gold. Gold looks a little better, doesn't it? Right? And, why not? Okay. They're too busy slamming silver. And so we have this nice, just pulling back into this area, following this uptrend line. Okay, this is manufactured sell-off. Okay, so we basically have this type of situation. I think we're breaking higher. We're beginning to stabilize. Still has some negative divergences, but look at the MACD. MACD is very, very bullish right now. And everything else right now is recovering. We have stochastics about to recover. We have PPOADX beginning to form. Okay, this type of a cup formation. Okay, we're probably going to start doing this. Okay, those are bullish for us. Okay, so these are probably one of the times that the chart itself does not convey the amount of manipulation that's occurred, and that how the fundamental supply and demand curve is going to override any of the charts that the banksters want you to see and panic sell. Okay. We talked about, we're not going to talk about MicroStrategy more than what we need to, but it's basically it's death watch. I do believe there's going to be one more bounce coming, but I do want to talk about Apple since um, it is a barometer, right? Oops, that's not the one I want. Okay, that's the one I want. As you can tell, Apple is very, very bearish in nature. We had a bearish engulfing, and we just found support at these levels. And I told you that this level is the one that needs to break. We're going to probably chop around here, make a little bear flag, and we're going to start breaking down. Okay. All right, so basically, that's what we're waiting for. I mean, Apple looks really, really bad, and there's a lot of meat left on the bone. And we did have a little bit of a recovery on the stochastic. Now it's beginning to roll back over. And, on the PPO ADX front, I mean, we have a continual bearish formation. It's just rolling over right now. Okay, we did have a little blip higher on the ATR. Okay, that is the signal for a trend change, and we're churning. There's no more real accumulation, and especially that Warren Buffett, in his last act before he retires, is to sell a bunch of Apple. Okay. All right. The other one that I'm big on is ULTA, because ULTA is a retail beauty supplier. And I think they're, when you look at their earnings report and their financials, they're engaged in the same type of practices that Carvana was. And that is that they're booking future earnings and fabricating a lot of their channels for sales. And, they've gone up. They've done really well going up. But now we're beginning to churn. We have negative divergences. Last week, even on the holiday shortened week, they just could not break through into this green line, this wedge. Okay, rising wedge. It's going to start failing, and we're going to start taking out these levels. Okay, and this has a lot of meat left on the bones. When you look at it, it's just early, right? But we're beginning to form some death hook. MACD histogram is warning you. Okay, this is a beautiful setup for not financial advice if you're watching on X.com and YouTube. But this is something that you need to do your due diligence on and get in before the move actually happens. I mean, look at this CCI, right? Commodity Channel Index is screaming that this is about to roll over. Stochastics, I mean, this is beautiful. We're at the overbought situation, and we're basically diverging lower. And then PPOADX, right? We're beginning to form this rollover, right? The bottom hasn't formed yet, but this is where you make the most amount of money. These are where the low-hanging fruits are right before, as they're forming that. There's some risk of reversal, yes, but at the same time, this is, the charts don't lie. It's churning at the top, and it's overextended. I mean, who's buying beauty products when you can't even buy food at this point? for most people. Look at the accumulation distribution, tells the whole story. If the stock was so great, why are we not trading near the top? We're now broken the uptrend line, but now it's rolling over. And then we're failing on the ATR at the most expansive layer. And this is usually indicative of a trend change. I'm very, very big on ULTA, folks, as a short. And then, of course, the 900-pound gorilla, which is Tesla, negative divergence. Okay, we topped here, forming some form of a early signs. This is weekly chart, folks. Head and shoulders forming right here. Maybe we pop a little bit more and start coming down. Regardless, Tesla is warning you that the broader markets are coming down. Look at this on the MACD, right? The MACD is warning us. It's absolutely warning us that bigger moves are coming for Tesla. Okay, sorry, Elon, but I think making cheap electrical cars that people don't, really want anymore, is not really going to work. Here in Arizona, the heat gets extreme. A lot of these Tesla's bumpers are held together by glue, and they fall off. I've seen it many, many times. Now the CCI is now entering into the bearish territory. We got a lot of room to move. And so this is, it's crazy that CCI is already down in here when we haven't really broken down into this area, right? But we're targeting these areas once it start moving. These 362, 300, even this 268 is coming in the next few weeks. And we are in that cycle turn date for the market corrective cycle. Okay, and again, look at our beautiful PPO ADX forming these, right? We got this, we got like bearish turn within a bearish turn. Okay, this is pretty rare. We got these, Homer Simpson type of eyes forming here. It's beautiful. Tesla is the one to target. Okay, just buy enough time. And if you're shorting, we always recommend using options to manage your downside, right? Okay, so of course, accumulation distribution. Yeah, it's no one's accumulating these. They're selling. The insider, probably Elon selling, right? And then we have this breakdown right here. See that? Okay, that's saying that the trend change is happening as we speak. Okay, so that's about it. That's all I want to cover in terms of that. But I do want to cover XRP and Bitcoin, kind of where we are. Man, I would be a buyer in this area. This is the generational buying opportunity, right? This is, for me, I would back up the truck, buy, if it ever gets here. The question is this 1.11 an area of support? Okay, so we've been having some continual, support right into these areas right here. The question is, are we forming this next leg down? Is this a bear flag and we actually do get in here? If it gets down into this area, I mean, you have to back up the truck. XRP is the one. It is the Bitcoin with utility, folks. And then, of course, we got the Bitcoin. For those of you that are saying, hey, look, Bitcoin is going to be going to $1 million probably in the next 5 years, 2 years. I don't know. It definitely can happen. But right now, I think the way the chart is set up, and this is that famous chart that everybody wants to see, so you can pause it and take a screenshot. But this is a bear flag forming. I mean, I think the cryptos have a little more to fall. They want to shake you out. They don't want retail into this thing. They want you to buy their ETFs like BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase, right? And I think we're moving down into this $49,000 range. And if this breaks, okay, this is the target, buy hand over fist. But if it ever comes down into this area, which is very, very possible because this is really the real breakout region, wouldn't it be great for them to really shake out the retail? They don't want you to get rich. They want you to be dependent on, UBI, universal basic income. They want you to live in 5-minute cities. They don't want you to drive. They don't want you to eat meat. They want you to eat bugs, all this other stuff, right? And why would they want you in Bitcoin? Okay, Bitcoin's not going away. If Bitcoin went away, all the cryptos would go away. So therefore, it's going to be store of value. The real utility coin for the next monetary shift is XRP, folks. And then, of course, I like XDC. Okay, you see what I like. Shiba Inu is just fun for me. Okay, so so that's kind of it in terms of cryptos. You know, let's go over a little bit about, we talked about going over TNX. 10-year yield is interesting because of the threat of war. We have increased a little bit on the price. There is an upward trajectory on the price. It is a race to zero. Countries are interested in devaluing their currency to zero so that they could buy up as much asset as possible and become protectionist. Okay, this is what happens as the monetary system dies. 10-year yield, despite constant rescue efforts, we're moving higher, folks. We cannot break this 40 level. Inflation is rampant. Okay, this dollar, okay, unless we stay above 97,995 and then start getting above 100, really, this is just all we're doing is chopping and testing and horribly failing off of those levels. VIX, okay, they managed to kind of bring this back down. So if it comes down into the 18, there's $20 and $23 calls are the way to go. You just got to buy enough time on this, okay? Let's look at the ES, okay? ES continues to chop between these two levels right here, okay? Largely here, but you see that we've come down here and we basically bounced, but this happens to be the major overhead resistance. Beautiful chart on silver, beautiful chart on gold. Okay, what more can I say at this point, folks? Okay, 10-year yield is screaming hyperinflation, and the US dollar getting up here. I mean, what are you getting excited about? Okay, dollar is trash, cash is trash right now. Okay, so what we got is that, and then of course, we started at 8. I thought this was really bad about 3 weeks ago at extreme fear, and then last week we went to 13 extreme fear, and then this week we're at 14. You gotta buy the fear, folks. They want you to be scared out of cryptos. Okay. So, instilling fear in the stock market. I mean, we talked about this. This is an old chart, okay? And we're at $1.45 on XRP. Don't be these people, right? I've been pounding the table. Be early, be prosperous. Don't be the sheep. They want you to be sheep. So this last few weeks, they made you sell your gold and silver, especially if you held the physicals at just ridiculous prices, and the cryptos for cheap. And they want you to buy SLV, GLD ETFs, XRP ETF, Bitcoin ETF, Ethereum ETF. They just don't want you to hold the real thing because that's where the real generational wealth is built. Okay, something big is still brewing, and I bet you it's not Iran and it's not China. There is something else that is happening, and it has to have to deal with a monetary regime shift because the banksters, the fractional reserve banking system where they can print money out of thin air and basically create debt and enslave you under that debt, is dying. Okay. In the coming weeks, watch for silver's option expiration. It's going to be hot, hot, hot. And then we're going to have our liftoff. Let's see how this works out. COMEX is trapped. They have to basically convince these people that are lined up for delivery by the at the end of this options expiration on 24th of February. And in order to convince them, they have to raise the price. Higher price talks, and a lot of these people will be convinced if they can get cash around 121 to 125, maybe even 140 to sweeten the deal, they're going to take that and then push it out and roll it out forward. Silver has begun to break out. For those of you that were talking about silver and gold, how the bear market has started, and oh my gosh, go buy cryptos and Bitcoin, especially Bitcoin. That is the last crypto that I would buy. I would not touch Bitcoin under 49,000, but I would accumulate XRP and XDC at these levels. Okay, COMEX is desperate, folks. Silver and gold COMEX desperation is now rampant. 6-to-1 physical delivery ratio. For every 1 ounce, there's 6 ounces. 6 ounces expecting delivery. It's bullish for gold and silver. Okay, if you can find gold and silver, even at these exorbitant spot premiums, it's worth it. Anything below $100 is a bargain. Okay, watch the February 24th options expiration. Of course, we have the Supreme Court blocks tariffs. Are you not entertained? The Supreme Court basically has handed us a death sentence as a nation, basically having to pay back money that we don't have. which means we have to keep printing money. So what's silver and gold going to do? China enters the Iranian picture. More distractions, go lower. Okay, this is the warning. Okay, next they're probably going to fake alien invasions. I don't know. Maybe second coming of Jesus. Jesus is not coming back right now. Okay, folks. All right. So we're going to be watching the new money system is being implemented, and rest our distractions. Don't get distracted. Stay focused. Silver is becoming unobtainium. Silver slam has failed. The price is now above 84.55. For those of you celebrating that how silver was going to go below 50 to back down to 30, you guys are wrong. And you're so wrong, I can't tell you how wrong you are. Okay, cryptocurrencies, max fear. Okay, did you accumulate? Okay, at these levels. Okay. Bitcoin, I would not touch right now. Bitcoin's going lower, I believe, to scare you. Volatility, hey, do you got VIX? Buy VIX with a lot of time, okay? Once we're in that season for a market correction, VIX is the way to go. Stock market real test comes next week, now that we don't have a holiday shortened week and China enters the foray, okay? It's going to get interesting. So, thank you so much for following me. Follow me at galaxy.market on x.com. Like us, share us, and above all, comment, set your notifications, alerts, and subscribe on YouTube, okay? I think the algorithm is blocking me because I talk the truth, okay? And also, if you want to inquire about working with me, you have to email me at coachbrandon@protonmail.com. If you want to learn about joining our entry-level Essentials community membership, click on the link in the description or the profile at x.com to find out more. $49 a month. You get a bunch of watch lists, market commentaries that you won't find anywhere else. Otherwise, let's get some alpha. Don't get fooled. Don't get scared out of your positions. Hold strong. Victory or death.